Hi, my name is Steve Silbert, and this is a very short talk on a prioritization technique that you can use in your work life to help with your product backlog or actually in your personal life as well. We all know that when you get onto a freeway and you're in a traffic jam, it's because everybody's on the road at the same time and nobody's given the top priority, so essentially nothing moves. The only exception is that if a first responder comes through, that person gets priority, a fast lane in Kanban, if you will, and they move forward. What would happen if we managed traffic in a way that we only allowed very few cars to go through, but removed all speed limit barriers? What you would end up with was that everyone would be able to get through, get to their destination in a brief time. I found this really interesting concept of prioritization techniques from a guy named Daniel Zacharias, who's a product management consultant in Lisbon, Spain. He came up with this concept of taking all these prioritization techniques from different industries and laying them out in a way that looks like a periodic table. What was really cool about this is that once he laid them out along the left axis, you can see quantitative versus qualitative, and the bottom axis, internal versus external. If you look at the techniques, the type of data that you have really dictates the type of technique that you need to use. So, for instance, if you only have qualitative data and it's kind of complex and you don't have necessarily control over it, you might use something simple like the Moscow, which is basically must have, should have, could have, and won't do. It's a great thing. Now, what I wanted to talk about was this concept called failure mode effects and analysis. It was not on Daniel's table, but as you can see, it fits nicely in that little box that I put in the middle. Failure mode effects analysis, or FMEA, is a manufacturing process that's used to use very good quantitative data in order to prioritize things. What I was able to do is to adapt it in a way that you could use more qualitative data. So here's, one thing. Failure mode is just a fancy word for a thing that could go wrong. There's actually two types of FMEAs. One is a design FMEA, and essentially it's where you're looking forward and before you even start building something and looking and going, what could go wrong? And then trying to put some scale around what could go wrong and adapting your design to mitigate those things. The other is a process FMEA. And in manufacturing, when you have defects, or in software development where you have defects, you already have things that go wrong. How do you prioritize fixing them? And it's based on a couple of things. It's based on the severity, meaning how bad is it? The detection, meaning can you actually tell that something went wrong or not? And the occurrence, meaning how often it happens. So the first step in using this is to establish scales for each. So I'm going to talk for a second about qualitative scales. So when you're in a situation where you don't necessarily have all of this specific data, the severity is more a matter of judgment. But what you can do is say what is really bad and what is not so bad, and just put a 1 to 5 scale, and for lack of a better term, eyeball where you think a specific issue fits there. Same with detection and same with the occurrence. Now, what you can do is you take your scales once you fill out this form. Oh yeah, don't overthink it, because you can get analysis paralysis on this very easily. You take your scales and you score each item for severity, for detection, for occurrence, and you multiply the three numbers, resulting in a thing called a risk prioritization number. From then it's easy, because you've got all of your items, you've got a risk prioritization number associated with each, and you do the math, and you just work from the highest RPN down. But it's almost always going to work. And if it doesn't look right, then just go back and adjust your scales accordingly until it feels about right. So applying this to business and technical backlogs, well, the first thing you have to do is actually get a backlog and select 3 drivers. And the drivers really should be aligned to 3 things. Desirability, how much does someone want it or not want it? Profitability, how much will it save or make money-wise, or any other coinage? And doability, how complex is it or how simple is it? You establish rating scales, you follow the steps above, and you work from the top down. So this is pretty much the talk. I did this as a sketch note using the Procreate app on my iPad Pro with an Apple Pencil, and did this recording using an app called Taw. Thank you very much.